Jimmy Haley presiding. Please keep all noise and move it to a minimum. Folks, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off or turn it on vibrate. Please remain standing for our word of prayer, plus our pledge to the flag.
We welcome to the podium tonight Pastor Willie Cameron, who is United Methodist minister in the Smith Parish. He pastors several churches in that parish, including the one at Braden, Howard Chapel, Dicktown, and Phillip Chapel. So if you could all stand as Mr. Cameron, bow your heads as Mr. Cameron gives our invocation tonight.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, this evening we come with bowed heads, humble hearts, and we come with thanksgiving tonight. Oh God, we thank you first of all for your Son Jesus, who has died for all of our sins, that we might have the right to the tree of life. We come tonight thanking you, oh God, for Warren County itself. We thank you for our executive and all of the commitments, and we thank you for all people. And oh God, as we come tonight, we ask that you will continue to be in our midst and continue to give us that love that runs from heart to heart. Oh God, we pray tonight that whatever is said and done, that we pray, God, that it will be pleasing in your sight. We pray for your protection throughout this night. We pray, God, that you continue to bless our schools, our officers, and Lord, just protect us as a whole. We thank you for your love. We thank you, oh God, for your mercy. We thank you for your grace. And oh God, whatever and whenever, we know that you are able tonight to do all things. And whatever it is that we need, we ask that you would grant it to us tonight if we don't ask in words. Oh God, we pray tonight that thou continue to be with us, Lord, until one day that you will call all of us home. And you have prepared a place for all of us. And oh God, we just thank you tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We remain standing for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Next item is roll call. If I clerk will call. Mr. Johnson.
Michael Brown,
Here.
Carl D. Bolden,
Here.
Carl E. Bolden,
Here.
Carleen Brown,
Here.
David Dunlap,
Here.
Randy England,
Here.
Deborah Evans,
Here.
Steve Glenn,
Here.
Richard Grissom,
Here.
Stephen Melton, Robert Hesse,
Here.
Lloyd Jenkins,
Here.
Donna Lee,
Here.
Gary Martin,
Here.
Daniel Owens,
Here.
Gary Prater,
Here.
Christy Ross,
Here.
Scott Ruble,
Here.
Tommy Savage,
Here.
Tyrone Spartman,
Here.
Joseph Stotts,
Here.
Philip Stout,
Here.
Noel Taylor,
Here.
Wayne Wilcher.
Here.
Thank you. Next item is adoption of docket. I recognize Commissioner Grissom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to amend the docket to correct the name of item number 2 to General Purpose Fund number 141, Amendment number 2. Add item number 2A as General Purpose Fund number 141, Amendment number 3. Add item number 2B as General Purpose Fund number 141, Amendment number 4. Move item number 6 to the December docket per the Financial Management Committee. Add a new number 6 as Resolution 24-2018.
We have a motion from Commissioner Grissom. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Ross. Anybody got any questions or speak to the motion? Get all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. You're gonna have to bear through my voice tonight. I can barely talk, so that might be a good thing. Next item is a reading of minutes, and I will make a motion to dispense with reading from Commissioner Bill. Is there a second? I have a second from Commissioner Evans. Anybody want to speak to that motion or have any corrections to said minutes? And all in favor of dispense with reading and approve as adopted, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is public comment. And so I told you as a county commission, we're going to educate. And so David Britton is here tonight to explain the role he plays in our insurance mitigation. So the chair recognizes Mr. David Britton.
Thank you, Mr. President, County Commissioners. I started with the county in about 2009, working under the role as a safety coordinator for the county. And primary focus in those days was on injuries, doing investigations, trying to make sure they didn't happen anymore. Learned pretty quickly that we needed to expand the role throughout the county to get much deeper into loss control and to our general liability issues, the issues that were driving costs throughout the county. We are a self-insured county, as all of you know, and so every dollar we spend is a dollar that taxpayers have to pay for. And so we work hard to try to keep costs in alignment. Along with that, our department heads' role increased a little bit. We worked hard to, you can't hold folks accountable for keeping their departments in compliance with OSHA regulations and EPA regulations if they don't know what they are. And so we spent a lot of time with education and trying to bring our departments up to speed. And I think we've been fairly successful with that. We do have a TOSHA inspection almost every other year, and they're pretty much like clockwork. And so we try to make sure that we're running our programs correctly. We're reporting everything we have to report to the state, to the federal government. And the biggest thing is making sure that we're looking at what's driving costs and do we have programs and processes in place to control those costs and to eliminate injuries. You know, injuries are family. I always looked at it, if we have somebody injured and somebody has a severe injury, we failed. And so that's kind of what I look at my role as, and the role of working with the department managers, of making sure we don't have injuries that we can avoid. Sometimes things happen, but in reality, when you dig down to root cause, a lot of it is behind the person's behavior or the conditions that we allow them to work in, and that's the two things that we try to work on, and we have worked on pretty hard since I started in 2009. That's the primary focus of where I work, and I work with the insurance companies, with Southern Insurance and BB&T and states and Safety National and the other ones that we have coverage packages with, of trying to make sure our programs are where they need to be and that we keep the costs as low as we can for the county. You know, I'm very proud to say that when I started this in 2009, our cost as of 2017 has dropped since 2009, when the healthcare costs throughout the country has gone up dramatically. We're still maintaining costs at that level, and that's what we want to try to make sure that we're doing. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Britton. We'll be bringing us some new proposals about the self-insurance fund
Yes, sir.
in the next month or so. So thank you. We'll save some money here a little bit more efficiently. There's no other public comments tonight. We're going to move on to employee recognition. And so, as county executive, I'm very proud that we have employees, some of whom have worked 40-plus years for this county, devoted their adult life to serving the citizens in a very effective, cost-effective, and efficient way. And so I've been friends with a lot of these employees most of my life. And I think it's only fitting that we begin to honor and recognize some of these employees. One of these tonight, and I would like for her to come to the podium. She's kind of bashful and she's not much of a diva, but I would like for Donna Smith to come to the podium. Let me tell you a little bit about Donna, if you don't already know. You know, elections are the backbone of democracy in America. And we cannot do the job that we do as a community without having an effective election commission. Donna serves in a very critical role when it comes to the accountability of the votes here in Warren County for every election. And so Donna began working for the Warren County Election Commission in 1976. It'd be fun to say that she started before she was old enough to vote, but the 26th Amendment to allow 18-year-olds allowed that to happen. I missed out on that, but you got there. She began as a deputy under then Administrator of Election, Marie Rulla. About a year later, Marie's husband took a job outside the county and they moved away. That left Donna to be appointed as Administrator of Election, the office that she has held until now. That's an amazing number of years. She's seen a lot of changes, from paper ballots and the old-fashioned ballot machines, voting machines that we got, a couple of them down there in storage. And so she has played an important role to oversee that. Today, the officers of the election at the precincts can take their voting machines and all the rest of their equipment to the polls in their cars, not have to be loaded in big trucks like they used to be. You know, afraid somebody was going to drop them or have to be recalibrated all the time. So, you know, in basically an oversized briefcase, we can handle a lot of what goes on at the polls today. One of her past co-workers talked about how they used to tally the returns on the election. They had the big poster board, we very often did the tallies and went through, you know, over and over and over again to make sure that every ballot was tallied and recorded on that big board so it could be made public. And there were no calculators to crunch those numbers. It was all doing stuff by pencil, doing it over and over and over again to make sure every vote was counted correctly. Earlier absentee ballots required to be present at the precincts were typed by hand, and if the election was a great big one, there were lists that were long, and the keys, you know, climbed late into the night so that every vote was counted. And it's been Donna's quest since day one as Administrator of Elections. Donna's worked under many election commissioners over the years. You've seen them come and go over these 40 plus years. And she speaks fondly of all of them. I've never heard you say a harsh word about any of them. She has been blessed and continues to say how blessed she has been to work for Warren County government and for an election commission that has allowed her to move what we used to do by hand and paper into the electronic age and to do it as effectively and efficiently as possible. She's striven over the years to provide an exemplary office that has served the county with total distinction and honor. In '85, she was honored with the JC Outstanding Public Servant. And a couple years ago, she was chosen as the Outstanding Woman of Warren County. Not only has she served her county, but also the state of Tennessee as a member of the Tennessee Association of County Election Officials. In 2003, she was elected by the membership of the association for a 2-year term as Vice President of the Middle Tennessee Division. In 2005, she was elected to the Division Secretary of the statewide organization. In 2007, she was the President, an office that she's held with distinction for 2 years. For 42 years, she has been an outstanding servant. And you have served with so much distinction. Now she's going to be retiring and leaving us. So the commission has the administrator to choose, and that's their choice, not ours to do so. And so when Secretary of State Hargett was here the other day, I got a statement from him and from Tennessee Coordinator of Election, Martin Owens. I'm friends with both of them, and they speak so fondly of you. And so this is what they said. Donna has served the election community for more than 40 years. During those years of service, we're assured that Donna could write a book about the number of changes which she has seen in the election process. During her tenure, her office has transitioned from records written in pencil to maintaining computer databases and becoming fluent in cybersecurity practices. On June 1st, 1976, Donna began working in the Election Commission office as temporary deputy. The next year, Donna was hired as Registrar at Large and is now retired as Administrator of Elections. The change in title gives you a glimpse over the years of how that office is transformed through her service. Donna has served the election community with distinction, holding several offices across the state. Donna has demonstrated commitment and dedication not only to administer the election process, but improving the election process overall. Her integrity, her servant's heart, her laughter are characteristics which are greatly appreciated and will be missed by the election community. Donna, please, this comes from Secretary of State, NC Coordinator. Donna, please accept our gratitude for who you are and what you have done to conduct a fair and trustworthy elections throughout the years for Warren County, Tennessee, and the great state of Tennessee. So, with that, I want to give you this, and I think a round of applause and
You have to let me do this.
I told you to hit on the fact that I have worked for, I think it's around 32 different commissioners over the last 40 years. And tonight, there is one of my commissioners in attendance. Without their support and their encouragement, I could not have done my job. There are also three ladies in the, well, let me recognize my commissioner, Charles Yancey. He's on the front row. So, and I just saw another of my commissioners, Bill Lee, who's on the back row. Thank you, Bill. There are also three ladies in the audience that I can't tell you what they mean to me, both professionally and personally. And they have worked tirelessly, honestly, diligently, and I could not have done my job without them the past several years. Susie, you all come up here for just a minute.
a shout out to
And Sandy and Inez, y'all come on. So, I want to say how much I have and still do appreciate them very much. I try not to rub it in that I'm retiring, but I just can't help myself. So, I'm just kidding about, I'll be 62 next month. And through the grace of God, I've gotten there almost. So, I just want to say what an honor it has been to serve every candidate, every citizen of this county. I love Warren County. I've never lived anywhere else. And unless I go completely crazy, I probably never will live anywhere else. It is a great community to live in, and I appreciate the things that this commission is going to do. I see great things coming. And I'm so encouraged by that I almost wish I were staying. Keyword is almost. Thank you so much. It is an honor. It has been an honor. And I appreciate each and every one of you so much. Thank you.
I now want to recognize our EMS director, Preston Denny, and I think he's got one of his employees with him tonight that we're going to give a shout out to. So Bridget, if you would come also up here. As most of you know, our ambulance service, they put their lives at stake every time they answer a call. And so they've been involved in accidents, but under Director Denny's professionalism, our ambulance service now shines, and we can be proud of the service that those men and women out there provide to our county and its citizens. So if you'd like to say a little something about Bridget, and then tell what kind of award that she is more, might be better coming from you than from me.
Miss Bridget here, she's worked for us since 2011. She started out with us as a paramedic. She initially had put an application in while she was an EMT. She had done her paramedic test, and then when she actually came and started working, her license had done went into effect. So she's been with us now since 2011. The award that she got is an award that they've been doing now for almost 30 years. It's for the entire Upper Cumberland region. So there's 14 counties that are eligible for that award. And each year they do a Paramedic of the Year award, and then they do an EMT award, and then they do a Lifetime Achievement award. And myself and then Bridget's supervisor, Bobby Hodge, he's sitting here in the back, we talked about it a few months ago, and me and him both agreed that Bridget was a very well-suited candidate for the Paramedic of the Year award. So we wrote up a 2-page essay on her, just kind of talking about some of the stuff that she's done over the last 8 or 9 years while she's been here. And, you know, Bridget is one of those employees, she's going to tell you what's on her mind. Sometimes, you know, she won't hold back. If I do something wrong, she'll tell me I've done something wrong. But we all learn by being around Bridget. And the other thing was, in the past few years, a lot of the Paramedic of the Year awards, it's been geared toward something that happened just that year. And when me and Bobby was talking about it, with Bridget, hers is not just one call, it's several calls over the last few years. But when she has a bad call, she don't let it get her down. She comes back and she says, you know, I wasn't prepared for the way this worked out, but I will be the next time. And the next time, there's no question. She's right there on point. And like I said, she's just an employee that we can lean on. And for me as the director, you know, I can't do my job without good employees. And like I said, with Bridget, I don't have to worry about it. But anyways, we nominated her for the award. There's 17 voting members on that board. To my knowledge, as far as for us, for Warren County, we've never had an employee that's received that award, and Bridget received all 17 votes. I think that says a lot for her. Several of the directors and the other people there, I don't know Bridget. She works at a couple of other places, some or has, and like I said, they all knew her, and whenever I mentioned her name, I read off what we had wrote about her, and everyone there voted right there. So, you know, like I said, to me, it's a big honor for us to have her to working with us, and I think it's a big honor for her to get the award. And that's about it for me, and I'll let Ms. Bridget say something.
I just want to say, I'm not actually a citizen of Warren County, but I have worked here my entire paramedic career. I will not go anywhere else. You know, Preston a long time, and I appreciate you leaving all that out. But I love this county. Y'all don't realize how well our ambulance service is. You all don't realize the nice things that we have here that other ambulance services do not. That I do work for another county service. This place is amazing. I just want you guys to know that your county is great.
Thank you. Could you give some evidence for John Holden? Next item on the agenda is elected officials and departmental reports. So first item is Finance Department, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have my report. If you have any questions about it, I'll take them at this time. And if anyone has any recommendations for a way that we can make the report better, easier to follow, I'll also accept those this time.
A motion to, we have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second from Mr. Stewart. Someone have any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Next is Highway Department, Mr. Lee, you got anything to report, sir?
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, of course, you have my report. If there's any questions, I'll
Move to adopt.
I second it.
Mr. Prater and second from Carl Bolden. Anybody have any questions? Then all in favor of adoption, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, I'd also like to congratulate our two persons tonight with these awards. Of
Yes.
course, I've known Donna a long time, and she's always been very helpful, and we've had a lot of fun at times having with Donna. She kind of knows me as a third grade student, and she'll know all about it.
Next item is sanitation department report, Mr. Hillis.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the county court, you should have a copy of my report. Any questions about it?
Motion to adopt, Commissioner Sparkman, is there a second? Commissioner Hennessy. Anybody got any questions, Mr. Hillis? Then all in favor of adoption, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hillis, for a job well done. Sheriff's Department, Mr. Myers contacted me just shortly before the commission meeting started and said that he was going to be unable to be here tonight. And I don't think he sent, who did he send? I know the report is here, but I don't think he sent anybody to present the report. So in lieu of someone from the Sheriff's Department to present that report, I presented for him. It's in your packet. Is there a motion to adopt the report?
Motion to adopt.
Commissioner Hennessy, second from Commissioner Elton. Anybody any questions about the report? We'll have to wait till Mr. Myers comes and answers those. So all in favor of adoption, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next report is Moore County School. The chair recognizes Director Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. If I have any questions, I'll try to answer them about the report.
Motion to adopt from Carly Bolden. Is there a second? From Commissioner Bell. Anybody else want to ask questions? All in favor of adoption, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
I would like to say to the commission, I did provide some information for you about a project coming up in the December meeting. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I would like to try to answer any of those that you have. Thank you.
Moving on to committee report, budget and finance, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget and Finance currently has nothing to report.
Thank you. Building and grounds, Mr. Carl E. Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget and Finance has nothing to report, but we do have a meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock, tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock.
You want to tell them where? Economic and Agricultural Development, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Economic and Agricultural Committee met, and we elected our other officials, Vice President, Mr. Tyrone Spartan, and Secretary, Mr. Michael Bailey. Thank you.
Thank you. Education, Commissioner Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to comment that in our December meeting, we will be addressing the project again. And there's a lot of information in here. This has now been through 3 committees. If you haven't had the opportunity to see this presentation, Bobby has said numerous times, where'd he go? Okay, that you can call him and he will talk to you on the phone. You can meet with him if you have any questions, because this will be something that we'll be having to look at it when all the financing is in order and has been approved. Thank you.
Financial Management, Justin Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Financial management has nothing to report at this time.
Health and Welfare, Commissioner Wiltshire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are in the finishing stages at Animal Control of the installing the security system. As you read in the paper, we're going to be starting a pet chipping system and also have a new database for tracking. And other than that, everything's in the report.
Thank you for your service. Highway and Bridges, Commissioner Prater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Officer and Personnel, Commissioner Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on October 16th and with the codes officer, and he explained his job. We discussed the county personnel policy and reviewed job description for animal control, discussed the ADA accessibility at the convenience center, and we'll be meeting with him in the coming weeks on different items. Thank you.
Safety, Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a couple things I'd like to touch base on. First, congratulations again to Breezy. I appreciate your kind words on your bragging about our EMS. We do have a great EMS. It's because of the hard work of the county commissioners that have supported us. Thank you for your service. Also, there's a couple pieces of paper you may have seen on your desk this evening. I'd like to take a moment to express the support from our Warren County EMS Director, Mr. Giddens, for the bypass, the road that might be able to be built by the state that would help access our EMS to the bypass a lot easier, and of course also help on the traffic for the new robotic center that's coming in. And there's also a letter at our last safety committee meeting. We talked about putting a letter of the safety committee's support of this bypass project, and we hope that in the end that everybody's concerns may be addressed, and this would be something that would be good for our county. Thank you very much. And I'll also like to make a request that we make a resolution maybe next month at our county court meeting, that we would send that to the state showing our support.
We have a motion from Mr. Lee to adopt a resolution in support of the TDOT project, and a second from Mr. Carl Bowen. Anybody want to speak to the motion? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on, we got County Corrections Partnership Committee. Chairman Hilton.
We've had a really busy last couple of months, and actually we've got a lot of different things going on. Population of the jail, state inmates have been a question. We've been working with the jail to try to get those moved. They're reporting that they're having an issue getting those inmates moved. They have put multiple requests in, and in the last meeting we was only able to move 10 of those inmates. And I think about 50 are total of state inmates. So they're working on trying to get those removed, but having issues of finding places for them to go. The storage room that everybody's been talking about, we trying to get that moved into a housing facility. Again, snag there. We've got the state fire marshal coming in to look at a feasibility study on that, whether or not we can do it and move those filing cabinets to a designated area upstairs. The sheriff is doing an excellent job. We had the state guys come in already and look at it, and they said it's the cleanest that the jail's ever been since he's been coming. He's been coming about 10, 12 years, so they're doing a fantastic job. We've started the education process where we've been inviting probation and drug court. They've been coming in and just doing an education process on the county corrections. We've got on schedule the DA and public defender that we're hoping that they're going to be able to come in and just educate us on how they work within our system and how and what they do and how it affects county corrections and working with that. I was also able to attend a special task force that you put together with the judges and how to correct some of the recidivism rate. So we're working on some new ideas and what we can do there to try to keep these inmates from being recycled over and over. Along the same lines, we got Commissioner Stotts working on some stuff with mental health and trying to investigate some avenues to try to get these inmates that have got some issues maybe in the correct facilities so that they can get the help they need and not be recycled into our system again. Obviously, the jail expansion is sort of off the table means our budget was not there. So we're looking at basically making some improvements to our current facility with the bond money. We've investigated this process and we've verified with Mr. Cotton that the bond money is acceptable. We can do some improvements to our facility. And so we're investigating those currently. We've actually got the CTAS coming in next week. They're going to be here, Bob Bass and Jim Hart. They're going to do another assessment, a facilities assessment, basically where our current structure is at and what we need to do to get that up to codes. And we're going to be approving hopefully a few things once they give us a few lists of things that we can hopefully get down, get on the bond and get some correction stuff going. I know they're complaining about the camera system and stuff of that nature, and on some of our tours, we noticed that some of the cameras are not working like they should be. Of course, they're needing some correction officers, and we hope maybe we can get some correction officers for them. And that's all I have to report at this time. Our next meeting will be December the 6th.
Thank you. There's been a lot of hard work going into the Corrections Partnership Committee, so I want to commend y'all for that. I also had a meeting with the task force on mental health, and there may be the opportunity that we can do some telehealth, which we can use the video arraignment equipment, and so psychiatrists and psychologists in state hospitals across the state can be able to assess some of those inmates and not have to transport them, and be able to do that via our arraignment program equipment. So we're looking into that. It's a possible grant. So I'm commend Mr. Stotts, so we're looking for some grants that might be able to expand our recovery court program as well. And we're looking at a housing grant also that might be able to transition some of these people out of jail and through the court program into some housing. And so that's a critical part of, reducing recidivism, is having a place for these people to go that's supervised. So thank y'all for all working very hard on that. So, we got to get a plan together by January, and so that's what we're working towards. So thank y'all very much for all that hard work. Redistricting committee has not been assigned yet, so nothing to report on that. It's come to the point in our commission meeting for a presentation, and so we have another one next month as well. We've done the jail, we've done the schools, and so now we need to look a little bit about where we stand financially. And so we have our finance director, Dustin Cotton here. We also have Scott Gibson from Coverable Investments here as well, which will give an overview. And so, Mr. Cotton, at this time, if you'd like to educate our commission a little bit on where we stand financially.
Well, I thought the best place for us to start, seeing as how we have a large number of new people in the room, is to maybe start with an overview of not just where we are financially, but how the budgetary process works. I thought I would start with kind of giving a layout of the funds that the county has, how they're separated, and how they're each budgeted. Now, most everybody's familiar with the general fund, which is where most of the general county government takes place. This is things like the sheriff, animal control, pretty much anything in this building with the exception of EMA, the court system, the airport, and then managing all of the county's buildings and repairs of that nature. We've got sanitation department, which is a fund all on its own. In your budget, it would be Fund 116. This is the convenience centers and all the drivers and people who work to move the collected waste and recycles from the convenience centers, centralize it, and then disperse it to either a recycling facility or a landfill. Fund 118, which is the ambulance fund, is made up of our emergency management agency and EMS, the ambulance service. We have a small kind of self-funded drug control fund, which is funded through drug-related fines and fees for the further investigation and specific controlling of drug-related crimes. Then we have the highway department. Then we have 3 school system departments or funds. There's a general purpose school system, which is all of the buildings, the facilities, the majority of the teachers, the administrative staff, and any support staff. And then we have the federal programs fund, which every year by resolution, county commission generally agrees to not handle the budget for federal programs because all of that money is heavily overseen by federal, because it is all federal funds. It is very specific and mandated, And so we generally, the commission generally elects to allow the school board to oversee it on their own. Then we have the food service, which is Fund 143, and that's any and all personnel who handle food and all of the items and equipment that is used to get food to the students of the county. And then probably the second biggest fund outside of the school is the debt service fund, which is funded almost primarily by property taxes. And that's Fund 151, which I will kind of just touch on a little. Scott will go a little more in depth into what's in it and the study bit after I'm finished. The normal budget process, we are required by the first day of February each year to pass the budgeting calendar. So that's step one. By the last day of January, we got to have a plan in place to get our budget passed. State wants it passed by June 30th. It absolutely must be passed and submitted by August 31st. Absolutely. If that doesn't happen, we revert to the previous year's budget. End of story. So after we set the calendar, the first thing that we'll do is ask all the directors, department heads, and other county officials who oversee larger groups to submit budgets based on both for their expenditures and their revenues for the year, based on their knowledge of the workings of their office. Once those have been submitted and reviewed, we compile them and then start to see kind of the state of where we're at. We have to take special care for some funds, especially in the general fund, because certain monies are required to be spent specific ways, and those are generally set aside as reserves, or either an assigned, committed, or restricted status. Those terms are based on what's required to show the spending of that money. Some of it's TCA, some of it requires special legislation by us to do something else with or move around. And then at that point, we go in and, after that money, if we've got extra revenue in a reserved account, then we have to pull that money out of the general fund budget. We can't apply it to the current year. If it exceeds the money we're expecting to spend, that is allowable for that specific item. And then we go in and see how much additional money we can generate with the current property tax rate, if any of the pennies can be moved around, or if we may have to see about, looking at raising taxes if that becomes necessary. And I know that prior to 3 or 4 years ago, I did not understand how the penny worked. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit before I get into the actual numbers and trends. The way that comes in as generally right after we start the budgeting process in early February, the property assessor will send over their asset summaries. That's the total property values for both real and personal property. That's broken down based on industry, whether it's residential, commercial, farmland, and so forth. And then once we get the assessed value, 1 penny of each 100 is used to calculate the true penny value. And then generally for the budgeting process, we will allow for 9% delinquency, which is to say that some of it may or may not come in this year, some of it may come in next year, and it also figures into uncollectibles for down the road, which will end up eventually leading to a tax sale sometime if it continues for a number of years. We also, during the budget process, we've got to make sure that we're maintaining our maintenance of effort with the highway, the schools, and the jail. We are mandated by TCA to maintain the level of funding we give to each of those facilities year to year. Now, I've passed out, everyone should have a list of financials, a 4-year spread. I passed it out on the desks before we started. The first page is kind of an overrun of actual money spent. This is not budgeted. This is actual, either, this is not necessarily money collected or spent, it is money that was either collected or spent that year, or was going to be collected within the next month or two of the next year as a receivable or payable. As you can see here, running year to year, the general trend is, as a whole, our revenues are slowly decreasing. This is due to a number of things, grants closing, occasionally, before I get any further. You'll notice between 15-16 and 16-17 in the general fund, we actually saw an increase of a significant amount. But if you'll run down through that same column between the two, you'll see where we lost a lot of money those same years. We can reshuffle the property tax each year, which will cause a shift in that portion of the revenues. But a lot of our revenues are cyclical because of grants, other projects that ended, some smaller one-time projects that we have going on. So you'll see there's a steady trend of falling revenues or receipts across the 3 years, especially if you get into this year's projected. That final column on the right is this year's projected or budgeted numbers. So you can see that we're expecting to see about $2 million less in revenue this year, while at the same time seeing about $1 million more in expenses. Now, we don't always, we try to be conservative with our budgets. We have a history of not spending more than about 90% of the money we budget. And we are generally really close on getting about 95 to 100% of the budgeted revenues. So these numbers are the absolute worst case as we see it budgeted in the far right. But even if you do factor in that we don't spend 10% of that, we're still going to lose $2 million this year in the general fund. And the same trend kind of holds all the way across. If you look, this first page is just a total shot of everything for the 4-year period that I was looking at. Slowly climbing expenses, steadily falling revenues. If we turn over to the second page, I'll get into a little bit more of the specifics. You can see here on the top line, looking at Fund 101 again, you can see that we actually had $1.1 billion increase in our property tax that year. But if you go down, we also lost property taxes in others. We shuffled money into 101 for projects or to make up for deficits we had, or because we had been doing something in another fund and pulled it back. And here you can see, 101, half of the funding for the general fund is property taxes. You can see the breakdown. I've kind of broken down other local, things that are in other local are fines, fees, and any other money generated here. State funds could be anything from grants, state prisoners for the jail, state aid for the airport, and then we get some federal money, and then other government sources. That's just kind of falls into that's just a catch-all. Anything that is not, that's mostly non-reoccurring items. And you can see that majority of our property tax, the property tax is the thing that props up general fund, and it's also pretty much the sole contributor to the debt service fund, which is on the third page. Other local, that's see about over half of the debt service is also property tax. The only one of our funds that is not, we have three of our funds that are not primarily driven by property tax, but are still heavily contributed. Most of Levy's money over at the highway department comes through TDOT. So, but you can see there, his TDOT money has been steadily climbing while his property tax has been staying about the same, even though his other rates, his expenses over on pages 3 and 4 are steadily climbing as well. Overall, I think that if you look through this, you'll see a growing trend of local monies are staying fairly consistent, whereas our state money is, we can't really control the money we get from the state. And it's kind of propping, up what we've got. But if you look through the expenses, let's jump over the expenses. That's something we've got control over. Of course, the biggest part of most of our bigger funds is payroll. Steadily increasing payroll costs. Now, payroll that includes all of the benefits. That's everything except for health insurance. I thought it was necessary to kind of pull it out and show what the county. This is not just the employees' portion or just the county's portion. This is all medical expenses that the county writes out. And you can see how quickly it has climbed over the last 4 years. And it's just, there's no real projected level on that one. Our other general services in the general fund, we've kind of got a good handle on, but we've been running at the same level for so many years that we've got that pretty much where it is as far down as it can get. We can't really cut any more there. So we're just maintaining and slowing the progression on our, everything that's not payroll related. We've kind of got it as well as we can. And as far as, I didn't put on here into the fund balance stuff because that's in the senior budget that I kind of passed out a couple weeks ago. But we're projected at the end of the year to close 101, our biggest fund that in the general government, at about a month and a half's worth of revenue, of expenses in fund balance. State requires us to maintain 1 month. And if we get a good year on our returns, on our revenues, and we get a good year on keeping our expenses where they normally are, we might close at 2.5 months. Last year we closed at about 3 or 4. So we need, it's a slow fall. If you look, you'll see that we have gained. We had a couple good years where we were level and gaining. But the last couple of years we've been barely holding on and falling. So, I mean, it's not doom and gloom. I mean, we're not going under, but we've got a physical trend here that, we kind of need to get some kind of handle on. If anyone has any questions,
when you look at the revenues for the general fund on the second page, there's about a $1.3 million discrepancy between the years 16, 17, and 18 and 19. Where did that figure come from, and where does that shortfall from? Because it says property tax.
Yeah, we reshow every year. While the property tax hasn't changed in 18 years, or we haven't raised taxes in 18 years, we can move that money between funds. We are not required to keep each fund getting the same thing. This year, the general fund gets 89 cents of the $1.96 of the property tax. But it may not, it would have gotten more last year. Or it would have gotten more the year before. So we had a large rise between 15 and 16. We saw almost the same fall between 16 and 17. So that money would have been moved out. Let's see if I can see.
So what you're saying, our property tax is still the same that we're getting year in, year out?
Yes.
Okay, you're just moving that money around.
Yes. Yeah, and we've not, the property tax amount has been basically the same for the last 3 or 4, since the last state reassessment. The tax rate's been the same, and the monetary value has been basically the same for the last 18 years, because every time they do a reassessment, they just change the tax rate so that we keep getting the same money. So like, I believe before the last assessment, our property tax rate was like 220. They reassessed, values had gone up. So in order to keep the county receiving the same money from the citizens, they lowered the rate per person, they lowered the assessment rate. Or they lowered the value of the penny. Or they raised the value of the penny so that we could lower the actual rate. And then that allowed for a redistribution of property taxes amongst the county. The tax rate, the tax amount, the actual total property tax has not changed. It's just being moved on a year-to-year basis based on who needs it the most that year.
Mr. Mullen, you had a question?
You said that we're getting the same amount of money in, year out. But,
from the property tax.
But we're getting more money in every year through growth.
Yes.
Because my taxes go up every year.
Yeah, so you're getting reassessed. We saw the penny change increased $10 between last year and this year.
But what I'm getting at,
yes,
even though we haven't raised the rate, we are still bringing in more money through growth. And when you read the new housing and stuff, I think the last quarter, we had 30-something new houses being built, so
those improvements to land will definitely we'll see a large return.
So we're not stagnating, we're getting the same amount of money.
Yeah, the rate's the same, but yes. The overall county as a whole's assessment's going up.
And some of these funds need the pennies changed.
Yeah.
Through Preston's good work, he has saved quite a bit of money in the ambulance service in the first few years. He doesn't actually require as many pennies because and the IDB board, they're now self-sufficient. So things like that.
Yeah, and that's one reason that we would be moving money is because someone doesn't need it anymore, and it's just on a yearly assessment of who needs what that year.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman. Justin, looking at this on this handout that you give us, it's showing that we're going to have somewhere around, we're going to be $394,000 short on debt service.
Yeah.
Do we have $8 million plus in debt service?
We do. It's there, but it's, just the fund balance will be pulled down by that much. It'll fall through, almost 400,000.
Mr. Gibson's going to talk about.
Yeah, he'll handle more on the specifics of debt service.
What's the penny worth right now?
After adjustment for uncollectibles and delinquency, it's 65.7. Let's see, I've actually got it out. Well, let me give it to you right now. 65, 16, and 20. Now that's allowing for 9% delinquency. So if we collect it all, it's actually worth $72,000.
We also give a discount for paying early.
Correct. Yeah, so that's 2% during October, 1% in November, I believe. So we could see, I believe that Darlene mentioned at financial management that it's like $6.5 million in property taxes in October.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Collins. We'll have some more questions after things finalize the document. Recognize now Mr. Scott Gibson from Cumberland Investments.
Thank you, everyone. I am Scott Gibson. I am with Cumberland Securities out of Knoxville. I've been the county's financial advisor for almost 25 years now. Unfortunately, I've been getting old. That being said, a financial advisor acts on the county's behalf to help them issue debt from time to time. So when y'all issue debt to fund schools or jails, you typically call me, or we refinance debt to try to save money. That is what I help the county do. I'm also a resource for the county for Justin to call from time to time to have questions, to talk about budget issues and stuff. So tonight I'm going to talk about the debt of the county, and I can answer some more questions about the budget process if you want to talk about that, and just what I think or what I see in other counties. I do work all over the state, so if you want to get a perspective somewhere, I probably do work in, like I said, all the way up East Tennessee, all the way to West Tennessee. So there were 3 handouts I passed out earlier today. The first one, we'll go over the debt. It says summary of debt on the front. Has Cumberland Securities at the bottom. I'll walk through this really quickly. just so you have an idea of kind of what's outstanding. So there's the cover page and a table of contents. And then on page 1, it lists the general obligation refunding bond series 2010. There are multiple columns there. You'll notice the columns on the left have dates on them. That's the payment dates. Then you have the principal amount that is being due that budget year, the coupon rate on this particular piece of debt, the interest due. Interest is payable semi-annually. The principal is payable annually, which is why there's only one principal and two interest payments. Total P&I for those 2 periods. And then the far right column on this page shows the physical total, which is basically the budget amount or the amount from that year's budget. So that first line there on the 2010 bonds, $813,400 is what is due on this particular bond in this budget year, as an example. And then next year, $810,600 will be payable. So this gives you this schedule gives you a look at not only what's due this year, but what's due in future years on this. And this 2010 bond was used to finance some mainly improvements to the current jail. And so those improvements will be paid off. After you make this year's payment, there's 3 payments left, and then it's paid off. We'll go through a few more schedules. On page 2, there's $6 million was issued in 2010, federally taxable Build America bonds. You'll notice those rates look a little bit high. They're a little bit higher because they are taxable rates. However, if you'll notice, there's a few more columns on this page. If you look over, there's one that's called Treasury Rebate. That is money that comes back to the county to help offset that higher interest rate. So this was a special program in 2010 that the county borrowed under that was part of the financial stimulus package. And what basically happens is the federal government is paying 35% of your debt costs, and you're paying approximately 65%. So while that coupon runs from 4.35 to 5.45, you're actually only paying 65% of that, or 62 and some change now. Because of some cuts that they've made. So you can see the payments there. Page 3 was another piece of school debt that was done in 2010, $9.3 million, that made some improvements, I believe. This is actually a really good loan program, also part of the stimulus package from the financial crisis. You got the budget date, you got the principal amount, you got interest, fees that the state charges, and you make $1,045,000 payment. I want to note though, while the interest payment is $450,000, you are essentially getting a rebate every year of $450,000. So the true interest cost to the county for this piece of debt is approximately 0. So that was a really good program in 2010. However, I want to point something out. At the top of that page, there's a little bit at the heading says, at the end it says, interest rebate is deposited into the general fund. So, talking about how y'all move pennies, Justin was talking about how y'all move pennies around in different revenues. So, you actually have a piece of debt that has a rebate that comes, but instead of the rebate being deposited into the general debt service fund, it's actually deposited in the general fund, Fund 101. Now, that was probably done, I think, several years ago. When someone decided we needed to move some money around, that was something that they grabbed and moved it to your general fund. And the reason I'm giving you a heads up is, in 2027, this debt's going to go away, and that $450,000 rebate is going to go away too. And so while the debt's going to go away in the general debt service fund, the revenue that you've been relying on is also going to go away in the general fund. So you're going to have a hole there once this debt's paid off, just to give you a heads up down the road. So that is, and I'm going to get into, if y'all want to, maybe a little bit bigger overview of the budget in just a second. Page 4 was more money, I believe, majority for schools in 2014. Really low rates on that debt in 14, you can see that. Page 5 was debt we did earlier this year, the $6 million, which can be used for schools and or jail. And that's what the jail committee's talking about using. The schools have maybe started some of their work for some of this. You can notice the rates on that. Average rate, average coupon at the bottom, 3.21. So we sold debt that goes through 2038, 20-year debt, and locked in a little bit less than 3.25 rate earlier this year. And so that just gives you kind of idea where the market is. And then finally, on page 6, all that stuff we just talked about is summarized on a budget basis. So if you look at the far right column, your debt service payment this year is going to be about $3,061,000 and some change. Now, as Justin mentioned earlier though, there's a shortage in the debt service fund. So you do not have enough revenue coming into that fund to actually make that payment. You do have a good fund balance, which is basically your savings account. And so you're going to be using money the previous commissions over the last 10 to 15 years have worked diligently to build up over time a little bit each and every year, and you are starting to spend that back down again. And if we issue the new debt that's still authorized, it's going to get spent even faster, which I can go over sooner. So my concern is, while the county is in pretty good shape, as Justin mentioned, we're starting to get on a path that is not sustainable. You're starting to have shortfalls in various funds, and it's going to be time to address that, and I'll get to that in a minute. So page 7 for people that like the pictures. So here's your debt service on page 7 in a graph format, and so you can see the payments jump up in 2022, then 23 they jump back down again. So that's a function of the new debt we had to issue. And then the last page, page 8, there's a pie chart there, and the reason that pie chart there is all your debt is fixed rate. So the county does not have any variable rate debt. You've had some in the past years ago, but we've gotten away from that. And so everything you have is completely fixed out, which means that the rates will never go up, and you will have an opportunity potentially to refinance some of that at some point, maybe get the rates a little bit lower. So we actually may have some opportunities in the spring of 19 to address a couple pieces of this debt. The other thing I wanted to hand out today was this report here from S&P. The county, when it goes to market, usually gets the rating from S&P. This is the rating report from earlier this year. You can take this home and read it. Everything in this report is really good. There's one thing that's not so good, and the S&P rates Warren County's economy is very weak. You don't really have control over that. That's just, they look at national statistics, they look at your diversity of your industry here, wealth industries and indices and stuff like that. And so they rate the economy here pretty weak. The other things though, the management, the budget performances, the budget flexibility, liquidity, the debt profile, all those are really strong. So that basically reflects on the good management that this commission, the previous commissions, and county executives have done over the years. So you should be very proud of that. One thing I want to point out though on page 5, at the top of the page, it says upside scenario and downside scenarios. And what that basically means is S&P rates you A+. And so the rating categories are AAA, it's in the United States government, AAA. State of Tennessee is AAA, Williamson County, Brentwood, Franklin, AAA. The next category is AA, and in the AA category, there's a AA+, a AA, and a AA-. So they're all AA, but there's some kind of at the top of that category, and some at the middle, and some at the bottom. That's how that really works. So a Knox County, Tennessee would be a AA+. Most of the counties surrounding Metro Nashville are AA+. And then you get out to some of the more rural counties. A lot of them fall in the AA- or A+ range, kind of where you are. So some of the, there are a few rural counties out there, rural counties like you that are in the AA- range. Their economies may be a little bit better. They may have a little bit stronger fund balance. They may be located closer to an interstate, so they have a little more economic diversity. They might not have as many big industries as you've had. They might have a lot smaller, and so that's actually a good thing from S&P, because they're always concerned about if you have a big industry that closes down, then it's really hard to replace those jobs, 500 or 1,000 jobs at a time. If a small business with 50 jobs shuts down, it's easier to absorb that into the economy. So they view that as like an economic diversity thing. So on this upside and downside, the upside stuff, you really can't control. Wealth indices, income characteristics and stuff. Those change slowly over time, but the one I want you to focus on is the downside scenarios, where it talks about they're very concerned about substantial or sustained declines in your reserves, i.e., kind of like we're doing the debt service fund now. They love that you have that good fund balance there. They are very concerned that if we're going start utilizing 3, 4, 5, 6, 700,000 a year over the next several years on that downward trend. And then your general fund also, like the last couple of years, you had a strong fund balance, but the last couple of years you've been working it down, and we're on this path of using fund balance, which they are concerned about, which is why it's mentioned here as a downside scenario. And what they're basically telling you is, we're okay with what you've done so far, but you're going to have to stop at some point, and the sooner the better. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go over the funding analysis too for the new debt. You're okay with that? So there's another book, real quickly, the preliminary funding analysis, $6.5 million on the front. That is the amount of funds, the previous commission authorized $12.5 million, which most of you all think realize, for the jail renovation, improvement, expansion, whatever you all decide, and the school projects that are going on. And so in the springtime, we get $6 million to get you started on that, and we got $6.5 million left to go that is already authorized that we can issue whenever you need the money. And so I want to go through that to show you kind of what we're looking at if we go ahead and issue that $6.5 million. So page 1 of this book shows your debt graph again. And on that graph, I've added one line, the red line that you can see. And as you'll notice, the red line is your revenue, and the bar charts for the next 4 years are above the revenue line, which means if we don't do anything, we're going to use fund balance to balance that budget out, or unless we find some more revenue to put in this fund, which would be great, except your other funds are already having downward trends too, and so there's not, previous years you've been robbing Peter to pay Paul, and now that's not really possible probably going forward. So page 2 shows, assuming a 3.5% rate, that's kind of where we would be today, what $6.5 million would look like over a 20-year financing. And if you'll notice, I did delay the principal payments to maximum allowed under state law, which is 3 years. That gives you 3 years to get your project constructed. But that also is because we're using nothing but your fund balance to make the debt payments on this debt. I mean, the debt you already have, you're using fund balance, and now we want to add more debt to it. And there's no, obviously, if we're already using our savings account to make the current debt payments, and we wanted to issue more debt, we got to use more of our savings to make that payment. And so it doesn't make sense to put a principal payment there when we're just using savings money to make the payment. So I'm trying to mitigate as much as I can and allow by state law to slow the drawdown of your fund balance there, i.e. your savings account. And if you turn to page 3, you'll notice there's a green line added to the chart. So I added the blue there is the new debt, what it would look like on the graph. And now you can tell if the revenue stays the same, it's 2026 before the debt payments get down to at least where the revenue line is, in 27. And then finally in 2028, the debt payments drop below the line. So you're asking really for the next decade almost to go and use that fund balance. And that fund balance is shown above on the green line. And it shows that fund balance that you spent 10, 15, 20 years building up, basically disappearing or getting very low down. And this assumes that for the next decade that the county does not issue one piece of debt for a roof repair, an HVAC unit, sheriff cruisers, ambulance for the emergency fund, EMS, no school improvements on top of what you're doing past the $6.5 million, no HVAC units, nothing like that where you need new revenue to pay for it. And unfortunately, this county, while you have had this low tax rate for a long time and your revenue is growing a little bit through growth, it's not growing substantially, and your other expenses are going up probably faster than your revenue, i.e. healthcare costs are really going up. And so the concern is, once again, that we're headed on a path that is not sustainable over the long term. And I just don't think realistically you can go 10 years without putting more money into capital items, roofs and HVAC systems. And one reason you've gotten so far with your current tax rate is you've already delayed probably not necessarily past the prime, but you probably should have started earlier looking at some of those roofs and HVAC systems in the past, and now it's going to catch up with you. In other words, I think you're going to have several roofs, several HVAC systems countywide that are going to need replacing sooner rather than later, and I don't know where the money's going to come from. And the one fund that Justin didn't mention on his presentation is this county, since we do have these projects coming up, should really seriously consider implementing like a capital projects fund. In other words, you're not going to be able to go out and really, spend $6.5 million or $12 million for a big capital projects. But you should be able to go and put a new roof on a building without having to borrow money, or put an HVAC system in without having to borrow money. And so one way to do that is to start setting money aside, and the best way to do that is through a capital projects fund. And basically let's take an example, let's take 5 pennies and put in a capital projects fund that generates about $300,000, a little bit more. $300,000 will pay for probably a roof a year and a few HVAC systems. This allows you to kind of pay cash and keep your buildings up and the assets that you have, because everyone in this room, this county has done a phenomenal job. You manage your money great. You keep your expenses in control, but at some point you're going to have to, just like you did your home or anywhere else, replace the roof, put a new refrigerator in, or put a new stove in, and put LED lights in at some point to save on energy costs. These are all things that you can do to maintain the buildings that you have. And I don't want to be preaching to the choir, but I just want to point out that the trend that you're on is not sustainable problem, and you're going to have to do something, and it's more of a revenue problem versus an expense problem. Because as Justin mentioned, the county, y'all do a great job controlling your expenses, and to the extent someone wants to stand up and say, well, we'll just cut some more, the problem is you can't really cut, because you got maintenance of effort in the school fund, the sheriff's budget with the jail, the library, the highway department. When you factor all that in, there's not much left. Those are the biggest parts of the fund. And then the debt fund, obviously, we want to pay our debt, so at some point we can't. I would be very concerned if we even cut more revenue out of this, when we really need to be adding revenue to pay for the debt we already have. So, sorry to get on my soapbox there, Mr. Chairman, but I wanted to point out kind of what the debt profile is, and two, just to reiterate what Justin was saying, that, what I am seeing, and I do this all over the state, so you're not the only one that's in this boat, and you've done a great job so far. I just want to warn you, before you keep digging this hole, and the hole gets too deep, let's stop digging the hole, and let's get back to where we're getting the county on a positive step forward for the benefit of you, your children, and your grandchildren. So.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to, I know Mr. Cox is going to be presenting the borrowing. There's been some concern by some commissioners that we won't need to borrow in order to do that ESG as a cost-saving measure. How that will affect our debt, how that will affect our rating.
So the schools, I know about the schools. They got the energy program that's out there, and they're looking to borrow, several $1 million potentially to help fund that. I will tell you, those energy programs. Let's back up. The county, there's really no limit on how much debt the county can do. Obviously, we're potentially issuing more debt, and you don't even have the revenue to pay for it. So you do have savings in your fund there to make the payments for a long time if you have to. Now, that could have adverse consequences on the rating and future debt and all that if you continue to spend that money. But in the state of Tennessee, you can issue, there's really no limit on what you can do. What really limits you on the amount of debt you can do is your political will to raise the revenue to support more debt. So if you want to go out and do something and borrow another $10 million, that's possible, but you're going to have to come up with revenue to help pay for it. So the answer is there a limit? No, but there is a limit if you're not willing to raise the revenue at some point. That number becomes unsustainable, like you're getting close to now with the current debt situation. As far as the energy program, that is, you go back and look historically, I've done a bunch of energy programs over the time. Those are pretty good programs. And what happens is they do generate revenue. Well, they reduce your expenses, and by reducing your expenses, you free up cash to help make the payments on the debt that you would use to put the equipment in. And so it's pretty simple. I know some of you probably have put LED lights in your home. If you look at your electric bill goes down. So the schools are just doing that on a much bigger scale. I think they have HVAC systems that are 15 plus years old. If you buy a new HVAC system today, it's more energy efficient than one 15, 20 years old. And so you save money on the electric costs, and you're going to have to replace the units anyway, so that was already going to be an expense, and so now you have a new unit. So are these programs 100% perfect? The answer is no. But they're really good. And when I say perfect, will the program pay for itself? Absolutely 100%. The answer is maybe, maybe not. But I've always told the schools, and I'll be happy, and I'm telling you tonight, the reason for that is so that you go in eyes wide open. I know you haven't really seen maybe the numbers, but the energy companies build in a growth factor in those. So if you have $100 going into the school's budget for energy costs this year, the energy company assumes next year that there'll be $103, like a 3% growth rate or 2% growth rate. And so from the school's perspective, that's great, except for the fact that you as the county commission may not want to send them more money next year, or the state of Tennessee may not want to send them money. And it may happen next year, but at some point, you as the county commission and you as a state probably going to have a bad year, and that extra money is not going to be there. And so that growth factor is over an 18, 20-year period, and so that it's basically like compounding steadily. And so while the savings, they show it like let's use a nice easy number, $100 this year, in 20 years that's $135, $145, or something like that. So even though that there may not be more cash in their budget to make that payment in the future. That being said, it's still a pretty good deal, because if I can get a new HVAC system, LED lights, don't have to have any maintenance or repairs on that stuff for the next 15 years, if I'm out of pocket a few, 10% on it, and it ends up paying 90% realistically with no growth rate, that's still a pretty good deal for the county. And you get a whole new $9 million worth of stuff, and you only pay 10 cents on the dollar for it when it's all said and done. If that's worst case scenario or something. And you'll see that when you see the cash flows and stuff. Those cash flows are constantly increasing. And my point is, yes, energy costs may go up every year. Will they go up steady? I don't know. But the bigger problem for the schools is because their funding they don't control their funding. That's not necessarily mean that there's more money in their budget in future years. So I think it's a good project. It's worth doing. It probably pays for itself, or it pays a good portion for itself over the next, several years. It's something you should look into. You can still borrow the money to do that because the revenue will be there from the energy savings to help pay for it. Now, if there were no energy savings, we'd be having a whole different conversation, because we're already running a deficit in this general debt service fund. If we're going to add new debt without new revenue or energy savings, then I would be hard pressed to recommend doing something like that, but that's not the case here. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, because, there's several of those pieces of equipment that's going to go down at any time, and it's going to cost a sizable increase in expenses on the county to replace that chiller at the middle school. We've already had a new one at Hickory Creek, the one at the high school. It's 25 years old now and aging, and has multiple repairs. And so several $1 million worth of borrowing just to buy equipment with no performance contract in there or no guarantees is a huge shortfall for the county. And we'd have to make it up in some way. Either borrow the money, or you'll send 900 kids home for how long until we raise the money to fix a chiller at the middle school.
And this was my point earlier on the Capital Projects Fund, that the sooner you start maybe addressing some of these issues, not to say that they weren't addressed in the past, but the county has been living off, putting off major maintenance of issues that you put a roof on 15 or 20 years ago, and you really haven't been setting aside money to replace that roof. And if you start addressing that sooner rather than later, yes, it's a little painful to maybe find the revenue to get that process started, but if sooner you start it, over the long term, the county's in much better shape, and the pain overall is much less versus continuing to wait, and then you have to borrow a bunch of money to do something that should have been done earlier and the money should have been set aside. I'm just trying to make sure that the county, y'all have a great county here, don't get me wrong. I just want to make sure that we get off this path that we're headed down. It's not the best path, and get on a different path that maintains or improves the condition of the county for everyone, not only today, but in the future for your kids and grandkids too. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you.
Next item of business is old business. Any member of the commission got any old business to discuss? We'll move on to new business. Item number 1 is to appoint District 11 Constable. As you know, we have to follow a Tennessee Code annotate in order to fill this position. So any person that desired to be appointed had to complete a qualifying affidavit at the Election Commission office, and then file that affidavit and have it notarized to the county clerks, submit a copy to me, delivered to my office. So those said candidates are qualified on the ballot tonight. And so we have 3 of those candidates here that qualified. So we have Mr. Ed Fermella, we have William Russell, and we have Jerry Wakefield. I think on your desk, there should be a biography that each one of them submitted to you. And so I thought I would have each one of them come alphabetically, just like they're going to be on the ballot that we do. And so, Ed, would you like to come to the podium and introduce yourself so that every county commissioner knows who you are?
Executive Healy of Warren County Commissioners. I think a lot of you know me from during the campaigns, and I recognize a lot of faces. For those who don't know me, I currently work for the city as a volunteer as a safety officer for the McMinnville Police Department. And I've been doing that almost 3 years. And I'm just going to fill you in on what the duties are because I want to relate that to constable. As a safety officer, what we do is we support the commissioned officers. We do traffic assist, we do police, we do escorts for funerals, bank escorts, we work fire scenes, we work ambulance scenes. What we do is we allow the commissioned officers to be freed up so that they can take another call, which could be more urgent. That's our function. We're just as effective as a police officer, even though we don't have the same function as the officer. As a constable, I want to do the same thing in my district. The county sheriff's department is actually a much more complicated system than the city. Those officers are usually 1 per district, 1 per area, in fact. If they're on a call, they're tied up. The next officer is 15, 20, 30 minutes away, sometimes not even available. I work for the city, and on mutual aid, I have taken funerals into the county because the sheriff's department doesn't have enough officers. By having a constable in the area, I believe that the constable's job is not to run up and down the street pulling people over, but I do believe it's to patrol the area, to reduce the risk of crime. I believe it's to back up the officers, and when there is an accident or a fire or an EMS response, where a county officer is going to be tied up on that scene where he could be helping somebody else, the constable can take that scene over and make that officer go 10-8, which means available for another call. That's my goal as being a constable. When I ran, one of the things that I wanted to do that I spoke about when I ran was to have an online neighborhood watch program, not a written one, but an actual online one where people could anonymously and publicly report suspicious activity. As the constable, I would take that information, share it with Tommy Meyer. Tommy and I had discussions about this during the election, and that information would be shared, possibly reduce some criminal activity, allow the county sheriff to direct their attention patrols where it needed to be, where there was some criminal activities. So I'm looking forward to completing the task that I started, even though I didn't get elected. I'm asking you now to appoint me for the next 2 years until the voters get to decide who they want to be constable, and let me finish what I started. Thank you very much.
Mr. Russell, would you like to address the commission, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Executive and County Commissioners. My name is William Russell. I've only lived in this county for 4.5 years. We moved here after I retired, and I've fallen in love with this county and this community, and have done everything that I can to support it. And I feel that this is a way that I can broaden that and support the county even more. I don't know a lot of you. I've seen a lot of you different places, but I don't know a lot. County Executive Haley has seen me several times over the last couple of years. I do work with the Bobby Ray Detection of Marine Corps League, Vietnam Veterans of America, 474 Chapter 1112, and the American Legion and American Legion Riders. So I'm heavily involved with the community now, and just like to broaden it a little bit more, to help out and be an executive, or be a constable for this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wakefield, would you like to address the commission?
I feel like I already know most of you. I've talked to a lot of you the last couple of weeks. Much like Mr. Formello, I do am in the volunteer service. I'm currently a firefighter with North Warren Fire Department, along with first responder. I'm not looking to replace fire department or first responder. I just want to add to it and help the community. I've offered a couple of letters of recommendation. I'll let those with y'all. I appreciate your votes. If anybody has any questions, I'll answer any questions. Okay.
Thank you. You're awfully served. Officer Young, if you can distribute the ballots to the commissioners. We have a paper ballot on this, marked for one candidate. Officer Young will collect these and give these to the county clerk for her vote, the county clerk.
Let me get everybody trying to go more. There's one.
We have a concern by Commissioner that in one of the meetings, the Tennessee Code says it's just a vote by the legislative body. Commissioner Savage seems to think that we need a roll call vote on this, so we'll have to go through it 3 times and vote like we did before. And so you'll have to be careful about how you vote. You can only vote once. And so it says general elected legislative body can vote. It does not specifically say how we can vote. So Commissioner Savage recommends that we do a roll call vote on this. So
Mr. Chairman,
At the County Commissioners Association meeting, they advised us to never use paper ballots or any kind of secret ballots. And I'm not saying what we're going to do is wrong. I don't know the TCA code on that, but I would feel better if we did this in an open vote.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We will do it by a roll call vote, so. Ms. Scott? That's just your cue. So we'll take each candidate, and you can only vote for one. And so we'll do it alphabetically, just like it was on the agenda. So the first candidate will be Mr. Ed Formella. So you'll have to call the roll on each one of these. You can only vote once.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden.
Who is this voting for?
This is for Mr.
Ed
Formella.
Formella.
Pass.
Carleen Brown,
Pass.
David Dunlap,
Yes.
Randy England,
Pass.
Deborah Evans,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Richard Grissom,
Yes.
Stephen Helton,
No.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Lori Jenkins,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Pass.
Gary Martin,
Pass.
Daniel Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Christie Ross,
Pass.
Scott Ruble,
Pass.
Tommy Savage,
Pass.
Tyrone Spartman,
Pass.
Joseph Stotts,
No.
Philip Stout,
Pass.
Cole Taylor,
Yes.
Blaine Wiltshire.
Yes.
Anyone want to change your vote?
Well, next is William Russell. Call the roll.
Michael Bell,
No.
Carl D. Bolden,
Pass.
Carl E. Bolden,
Pass.
Carleen Brown. Pass. David Dunlap,
Pass.
Randy England,
Pass.
Deborah Evans,
Pass.
Steve Glenn,
Pass.
Richard Grissom,
Pass.
Stephen Helton,
No.
Robert Hennessy,
Pass.
Lori Jenkins,
Pass.
Ron Lee,
Pass.
Gary Martin,
Pass.
Daniel Owens,
Pass.
Gary Prater,
Pass.
Christie Ross,
Pass.
Scott Ruble,
Pass.
Tommy Savage,
Pass.
Tyrone Spartman,
Pass.
Joseph Stotts,
No.
Philip Stout,
Pass.
Cole Taylor,
Pass.
Blaine Wiltshire.
Pass.
Anyone want to change your vote?
Now, did Jerry Wakefield?
Michael Bell,
Pass.
Carl E. Bolden,
Pass.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carleen Brown,
Yes.
David Dunlap,
Pass.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Pass.
Steve Glenn,
Pass.
Richard Grissom,
Pass.
Stephen Helton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Pass.
Lori Jenkins,
Pass.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Daniel Owens,
Pass.
Gary Prater,
Pass.
Christie Ross,
Yes.
Scott Ruble,
Yes.
Tommy Savage,
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman,
Yes.
Joseph Stotts,
Yes.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
Pass.
Blaine Wiltshire.
Pass. It's tied 12 to 12.
change the ballot. Does anybody want to change their vote before we, anybody want to change their vote?
I cast my vote for Mr. Ed Farmello. He served the city of McMinnville when I was mayor quite well, and so I was proud of his service, so I cast my vote for Ed Farmello.
Thank you, sir.
You got a possible? Congratulations. Next item is budget amendment, general purpose fund 141, amendment 2. I'm entertaining a motion.
Mr. Chairman, budget amendment, general purpose fund number 141, amendment 2, for the purpose to add new code and transfer money for the new hybrid retirement codes. Budget and Finance Committee voted 5-0 to recommend approval by the full commission, and I so move.
We have a motion from Mr. Grissom, and a second from Mr. Prater. I will speak to that motion. Call for the vote.
Michael Bell?
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden?
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden?
Yes.
Carly Brown?
Yes.
David Dunlap?
Yes.
Randy England?
Yes.
Deborah Evans?
Yes.
Steve Glenn?
Yes.
Richard Grissom?
Yes.
Stephen Hilton?
Yes.
Robert Hennessy?
Yes.
Lori Jenkins?
Yes.
Ron Lee?
Yes.
Gary Martin?
Yes.
Daniel Owens?
Yes.
Gary Prater?
Yes.
Christie Ross?
Yes.
Scott Ruble?
Yes.
Tommy Savage?
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman?
Yes.
Joseph Stotts?
Yes.
Philip Stout?
Yes.
Cole Taylor?
Yes.
Blaine Wiltshire?
Yes.
Anyone want to change their vote? 24 yes.
24 yes, motion carries. Next item is budget amendment, general purpose 141, amendment 3.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to do item number 2A next. I believe it was an amendment from tonight's agenda. That is general purpose fund number 141, amendment number 3. Purpose is balanced pre-K budget. I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but I don't have my notes with me. I believe that was voted on before Financial Management Committee last week, 4-0, to recommend approval by the full commission, and I so move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Grissom. Second.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wiltshire. Anybody want to speak to that motion? We'll call for the vote.
Michael Bell?
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden?
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden?
Yes.
Carly Brown?
Yes.
David Dunlap?
Yes.
Randy England?
Yes.
Deborah Evans?
Yes.
Steve Glenn?
Yes.
Richard Grissom?
Yes.
Stephen Hilton?
Yes.
Robert Hennessy?
Yes.
Lori Jenkins?
Yes.
Ron Lee?
Yes.
Gary Martin?
Yes.
Daniel Owens?
Yes.
Gary Prater?
Yes.
Christie Ross?
Yes.
Scott Ruble?
Yes.
Tommy Savage?
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman?
Yes.
Joseph Stotts?
Yes.
Philip Stout?
Yes.
Cole Taylor?
Yes.
Blaine Wiltshire?
Yes.
Anyone want to change their vote? 24 yes.
24 yes, motion carries. 2B is budget amendment, general purpose on 141, amendment 4.
Mr. Chairman, budget amendment 2B, or item 2B on tonight's agenda, general purpose fund number 141, amendment number 4. Its purpose is family resource grant, received a mini grant. Financial management voted 4-0 to recommend approval by the full commission, and I so move.
A motion for Commissioner Grissom, second from Commissioner Ruble. Anybody want to speak to that motion? Call for the vote.
Michael Bell?
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden?
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden?
Yes.
Carly Brown?
Yes.
David Dunlap?
Yes.
Randy England?
Yes.
Deborah Evans?
Yes.
Steve Glenn?
Yes.
Richard Grissom?
Yes.
Stephen Hilton?
Yes.
Robert Hennessy?
Yes.
Lori Jenkins?
Yes.
Ron Lee?
Yes.
Gary Martin?
Yes.
Daniel Owens?
Yes.
Gary Prater?
Yes.
Christie Ross?
Yes.
Scott Ruble?
Yes.
Tommy Savage?
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman?
Yes.
Joseph Stotts?
Yes.
Philip Stout?
Yes.
Cole Taylor?
Yes.
Blaine Wiltshire?
Yes.
Anyone want to change your vote? 24 yes.
24 yes, motion carries. Item number 3 is budget amendment GF-FY 18-19-1.
Mr. Chairman, budget amendment number GF-FY 18-19-1 concerns the sale of a tractor deemed surplus property by the Animal Control and Adoption Center. The tractor was sold to kids of the community and the check has been received. The Health and Welfare Committee recommended this budget amendment to the Budget and Finance Committee. Budget and Finance voted 5-0 to recommend approval by the full commission, and I so move.
Motion for Commissioner Grissom. Is there a second for Commissioner Wiltshire? Anybody want to speak to that motion? Call for the vote.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Arlene Brown,
Yes.
David Dunlap,
Yes.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Richard Grissom,
Yes.
Stephen Hilton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Lori Jenkins,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Daniel Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Christie Ross,
Yes.
Scott Ruble,
Yes.
Tommy Savage,
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman,
Yes.
Joseph Stotts,
Yes.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
Yes.
Lane Wiltshire.
Yes.
Anyone change your vote? 24 yes.
Motion carries. Item next is resolution number 22-2018. This has to do with recommendation from Commissioner Wiltshire, clarify financial management's the nepotism clause for son-in-laws and in-laws. So, we have a motion.
Yes.
For Commissioner Wiltshire. We have a second from Commissioner Evans. Mr. Wiltshire, would you like to speak to that motion? Any further?
Well, without reading the whole resolution, which I think everybody knows, we've been talking about this for a few months. Basically, it takes the in-laws clause out of the financial management restrictions.
So the motion is second. Anybody else want to speak to that motion? So all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23, 2018. Resolution provides the formal request needed by the state treasurer for Warren County to receive the unclaimed balance of the accounts remitted under the Unclaimed Property Act. The attached resolution is modeled after a previous resolution of Warren County passed in 2003. And so template was provided by the state of Tennessee Office of Controller and State Clerk, Master's Office, State Treasurer to identify all these remittances, and so this allows us to claim those. So this is the property that Mara had, so Commissioner Bolden makes that motion, a second for Commissioner Stout. Anybody else want to speak to that motion? Money like the roll call. Call for the roll.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carly Brown,
Yes.
David Dunlap,
Yes.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Richard Grissom,
Yes.
Stephen Hilton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Lori Jenkins,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Daniel Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Christie Ross,
Yes.
Scott Ruble,
Yes.
Tommy Savage,
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman,
Yes.
Joseph Stotts,
Yes.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
Yes.
Lane Wiltshire.
Yes.
Anyone want to change your vote?
24 yes, motion passes. Next item is EMS lead policy review. You got a copy of that in front of you. This proposal was brought before the Safety Committee on November 5th, 2018 by EMS Director Preston Guinea, and the committee voted to recommend the approval of this policy change to the full commission. So we got a motion from Mr. Lee. Is there a second? From Commissioner Taylor. Anybody want to speak to that motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, this is just an evening of leveling the playing field for the way they encourage their seeking vacation time compared to a person that worked a 40-hour week. and is good, and as our EMS has been running here lately, I think this would be a good pat on the back if we could patch this for these young men and women. Thank you.
Looks like we have a motion second. Second for Commissioner. Any further discussion? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, I think I skipped over one of these. Item number 6, resolution 2418. And so this was the resolution that was added as an amendment. And this is to urge the General Assembly, this came from Mr. Wes Williams, our Register of Deeds, to support the restoration of the register commissions for Senate elections that had been turned over to the state. And so we have a copy of that as an amendment, part of our docket for tonight in front of you. Do we have a motion? Motion. We have a motion from Commissioner Grissom and a second from Commissioner Savage. Anybody like to speak to that motion? Call for the vote.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carleen Brown,
Yes.
David Dunlap,
Yes.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Richard Grissom,
Yes.
Stephen Helton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Lori Jenkins,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Daniel Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Chrissy Ross,
Yes.
Scott Ruble,
Yes.
Tommy Savage,
Yes.
Alan Sparkman,
Yes.
Joseph Stotts,
Yes.
Bill Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
Yes.
Blaine Wiltshire.
Yes.
Anyone want to change their vote?
Yes, motion carries. Next item is item number 8, appoint the members to the 911 board. So the chair recognizes Commissioner Lee.
Yes, sir. What's up is for reappointment of Mark Gribble and Mr. Jerry Wall, and I'll present that as a motion, sir.
A motion from Commissioner Lee and second from Commissioner Bowden, Carl E. Bowden, to reappoint Mark Gribble and Jerry Walnut to the 911 board. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is appoint members to the Industrial Development Board. And so that comes from my recommendation. And so in front of you, I think, including are the biographies of my 2 candidates for the 911 board. I'd like to bring them to the podium and let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Andy Knowles, born and raised in Memphis. Went to Tennessee Tech for a few years in college, and then the Lord brought me back to Memphis to be able to service my wonderful town of Memphis. I've been working at First National Bank in Middle Tennessee for the last 5 years. I was excited to know that I were to be asked to be nominated for this. I feel like when they bring my kids back here in the community, it's just a wonderful place to go to really try to grow in Memphis the way the way it used to be, and I feel like the last few years have definitely been. It's an honor to be part of, even to be nominated for this position, and I hope for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Brett McKay.
Cool. I'm Brett McKay. Thanks for the time to do for you guys, and thanks for staying late. You guys are ahead of me. I'm usually bed at 8:30, so I don't know how this will work tomorrow morning with the run. But anyway, appreciate the opportunity to be on the industrial board. I definitely think Warren County is a great place to live, and I definitely think an opportunity to be an advocate for industry here, and hopefully help Warren County grow and prosper.
Both these young men have good credentials, and I've interviewed them with several other folks, and those are my recommendations. Is there a motion? We have a motion from Mr. Hennessy. Is there a second? A second.
Mr. Chairman, it is our privilege to nominate somebody else if we so choose, correct?
It's the county executive recommends.
Okay, I would like to nominate Joe Pugh.
We have
I'd like to second that.
a motion and a second. crazy vote. Voice votes. So we have the two candidates that I chose for young leadership. I did talk to Mr. Pugh and to Mr. Hamby both, who were to be reappointed if so chose to do so. There was some discrepancy in when they were appointed and how they were appointed before. They had different years on those. I did talk to both of those, and both of them agreed that if I chose someone else for those positions, that they would be happy with that vote, particularly to turn over some young leadership on the Industrial Development Board. So we have a motion, a second, to add another name to that ballot. So that will be, we'll have to go back through. I'll have to get the motions on my two as well, and then go back to that. So we have a motion, second, to add Pugh. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. So I have a motion to put Andy Knowles as a candidate. We have a motion from Commissioner Evans, a second from Commissioner Grissom. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Just put it on the ballot. And so we have recommended that Brent McKay. We have a motion from Commissioner Stotts and a second from Commissioner Cole Taylor to have Brent McKay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. So now we'll have to do a roll call vote. And vote for two. So if you're going to pass or say no, you have to keep up with your votes. Get it alphabetically like we've done before. It's be Mr. Knowles, Mr. McKay, Mr. Pugh. With Andy Knowles. Call the roll.
Michael Bell.
Vote for Andy Knowles first.
This is Mr. Knowles, yes.
Pass.
Vote for two.
Carl D. Bolden.
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden.
Yes.
Connie Brown.
Yes.
David Dunlap.
Yes.
Randy England.
Mr. Knowles, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Deborah Evans.
Yes.
Steve Glenn.
Yes.
Richard Grissom.
Yes.
Stephen Helton.
Yes.
Robert Hennessy.
Yes.
Lori Jenkins.
Yes.
Ron Lee.
Yes.
Gary Martin.
Yes.
Daniel Owens.
Yes.
Gary Prater.
Yes.
Christie Ross.
Yes.
Scott Ruble.
Pass.
Tommy Savage.
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman.
Yes.
Joseph Stotts.
Yes.
Philip Stout.
Yes.
Cole Taylor.
Yes.
Wayne Richard.
Yes.
This will be for Brent McKay.
Mr. Chairman, don't you start at the other end and come down on this vote?
Alphabetical order last time.
I know, but I think you go back forward. Gives me and Mr. Bell a break.
Hey, you come up here and give me a break.
It's not about the commissioners voting. It's hard
We
to
can do
follow.
it, yes. We can start.
Wayne Wiltshire.
Yes.
This is for Mr. McKay.
Cole Taylor.
Yes.
Philip Stout.
Pass.
Joseph Stotts.
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman.
Yes.
You can vote for two.
Tommy Savage.
Yes.
Scott Ruble.
Yes.
Christie Ross.
Yes.
Gary Prater.
Yes.
Daniel Owens.
Yes.
Gary Martin.
Pass.
Ron Lee.
Yes.
Lori Jenkins.
Yes.
Robert Hennessy.
Yes.
Stephen Helton.
No.
Richard Grissom.
Pass.
Steve Glenn.
Pass.
Deborah Evans.
Yes.
Randy England.
Pass.
David Dunlap.
Yes.
Connie Brown.
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl B. Bolden,
Pass.
Michael Bell.
Yes.
Now we'll do Joe Chu. You can only vote for two, so vote 3 times.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Pass.
Carly Brown,
Pass.
David Dunlap,
Pass.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Pass.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Richard Grissom,
Yes.
Stephen Hilton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Pass.
Lori Jenkins,
Pass.
Roy Lee,
Pass.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Andrew Owens,
Pass.
Greg Prater,
Pass.
Christie Ross,
Pass.
Scott Ruble,
Yes.
Tommy Savage,
Pass.
Tyrone Spartman,
Pass.
Joseph Stotts,
I'm out of votes.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
Pass.
Blaine Wiltshire.
Pass.
Andy Knowles received 22 votes, and Brenda Kay received 17 votes, and she received 9. So we have 2 new members to the Industrial Development Board. Thank you. Item number 10 is approval of notaries. You have a list in front of you.
Daphne Ann Johnson, Jason Rogers, Shannon Adcock, Jackie Rackley, Jason T. Walker, Jennifer B. Nafrada, Doris O. Elliott, and Lisa A. Hillis.
We have a motion for Commissioner Bell. We have a second for Commissioner Hilton. Anybody want to speak to that motion? Then all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is announcements. Got a couple announcements in front of you. In front of you is an invitation for next Monday night here in the courtroom. Upper Cumberland Development will be unveiling the strategic plan for Warren County. And so it involves a 3-star grant and additional monies through the state that paid for this. And so it addresses tourism, economic development, housing and health, and safety and government efficiency and operations. It'll give us a roadmap on where we need to go as a community. And I think we're the only second county in the state that's put together a strategic plan like this. And so it's going to be part of the requirement in the state in the next few years in order for us to qualify for any kind of state funds or grants. And so that'll be Monday night at here in the courtroom. And so you have that invitation in front of you.
What's that time again, please?
It is 5:30. It's 5:30. Also this Saturday, it's Small Business Saturday across the country and across the state of Tennessee. And so Friday will be Black Friday where people are spending all over everywhere. But Saturday is designated because the more you spend at home, the more tax dollars stays here. And those sales tax collection are important to our budget. And so on Saturday, we'll see a lot of activity around town. And so a lot of businesses, companies are offering deals on that day. And we'll have food and refreshments. So we'd love for you to patronize local businesses and turn in those tax dollars back to the county. There's also on December 5th at the Health Department, their free flu shots. You don't have to show any health insurance forms. It's basically, it would be first come, first served, but they're ready to serve several hundred people to come for shots that day. And so if you want to get a flu shot on December 5th, the health department can pick you up. We're also trying to set a date to auction off those return tax properties. We're trying to get as much revenue back from the county, so that's why we're going to the state for that unclaimed property. If we can get a couple $100,000 to fix some roofs, that's money well spent, and it's just sitting there for us to get. We haven't claimed it in multiple years. But we've also got several properties that did not sell in the last tax sale, and so those have been returned to us, and so those will be advertised. Right now, we're looking at December 15th, and we'll sell them actually out in the hallway here in the Magnolia Room. Depends upon how much activity we've got. We've got several properties, and those will be advertised in the newspaper, and so they were advertised once before in the previous commission that we were going to sell them, so we got a lot of activity. And one had to be removed from the list because of some legal complications. But the rest of those have been cleared. So we put those conditions in the paper and have a little auction. So what's we to be here. Myra Morrow will be here as well. And so we will have some extra additional revenue returned back to the county that way. We're trying to clear the rest of those tax properties as well. Have a tax sale in the next few months. So we've got several pieces of property that I think we can sell, generate a little bit more revenue as well. So we're working with the city to clear all those deeds inside the city limits so we can have one sale together. I think that'll be a little bit more effective, efficient way of doing it. A couple of other things on here. Next time we have a county commission meeting in December, the floors back there will be all waxed and cleaned up. So we did it in the early voting room, so I want to thank Mr. Cox and his staff. They sent their maintenance staff over here to show us how to do it and use the equipment and getting this wax. So we're going to do some cleaning up around here and do some of these wax floors. I think it's been 5 or 6 years since that floor has been cleaned. So when we have activities back there, it gets to be a little bit embarrassing, so we're going to do that. Financial management. Basically approved our website redesign, so we'll be launching that at the beginning of the next year, so it's not ADA compliant, and our license on that website's running out, so we've got to do something. So we piggybacked the deal with the city's website. It's got some new revised that we've just updated and redone, so we got a real good deal on that, so we'll be unveiling that soon, getting input from each, but it will also be the opportunity for every department page, and so we'll be able to, do videos and photographs and calendar and agendas and meetings. It'll be a lot more user-friendly for folks as well. And so that'll be a great thing for us to accomplish. So we've got, in December, we'll be doing a little education as well. We'll be looking at opportunities to increase our revenues and become more efficient as government, taking some of the information that Mr. Gibson and Mr. Cotton have shared with us tonight, and just like reclaiming that property in the state and doing some of these tax sales and maybe some other opportunities as well to increase operations, the efficiency of government operations, so that it's effective to all of us. And so we'll be doing some of that in December. So we're also working on our ADA compliance. So we've got a few more hoops to jump through. We're not as far as we thought we were in some areas. So if we don't have a plan in place, and by September 2019, Mr. Lynn's going to lose all his TDOT and pre-back money. And so try to run a road department with no tax revenue from the state. So I've got David Britton helping me to go through and mitigate out that list of improvements that we've already done. Look where we're deficient. I've got to submit a letter in the next week to the state, telling where we are and where we're going with what else we've got to do, and put a timeline. And so we're still looking at the role that some of our properties, like the convenience centers and the fairgrounds and other areas that we own, how ADA compliant those have to be. And so we're looking into all these things to make sure that the county has everything covered. And so that we have those revenues still coming from the state. So that's an important thing. I put one of the my business cards on your desk today as well. So that's the new logo and design that came out of the Chamber and Design Century. That's a lot of work with the state of Tennessee. And so that's the new logo and design with the information on it. So if you're interested in some of those cards, if you get with me, Walnut Printing, we did it local, so Walnut Printing did those. And so we can possibly share some of that and get that information out to those of you that asked about cards. So are there any other announcements to come before the commission tonight? Mr. Wiltshire, I want to recognize you. You had something to say.
Right, this won't take but about 20 minutes. No, I'm kidding. Last month, we had Families in Crisis here, and I didn't bring any of the plates. If anybody wants to make a minimum donation of $5, they'll get one of these plates that Randy's students had a TCAT made. All the money goes to Families in Crisis.
One of those plates. It's a great way to promote cause as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion from Mr. Prater to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Thank y'all.